Us at the Good Laff Podcast want you to know that episode 4 comes with a trigger warning for sexual assault and human trafficking. Me and Jordan stand with all survivors, anyone who is trying to find their voice, and anyone who is affected by these horrific acts. No, well, with Vince, just every time he brings up, he just gotta bring up he's sexually active. It's just so fucking.
It was the main theme of his whole character that he liked to have sex.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole character of Mr. McMahon too. It's just sexual predator,
But that's where we make the mistake, is we call it the character of Vince McMahon. I don't think he ever once played a character, as much as he wants to say he did. Every talking head in that documentary said, no, he's just an exaggerated version of the person we know.
Yeah.
So I don't think he played much of a character. I think he was just playing up a sexual predator. And, well, I think lawsuits show us that. Alleged lawsuits, because nothing's gone true.
I
think he did it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm 100% with the victims. I think Vince did it, but I'm just saying that they are alleged right now. I would love to see him get arrested, but
he when he fought Stephanie, that's so crazy.
Did the documentary even go over the fact that he had a tag team match against God?
Oh no, that's a crazy storyline. Or the other crazy one is Linda in the wheelchair and Trish Stratus. Just that is just.
Dude, I remember the God thing because God came to the ring and it was just a spotlight.
A spotlight.
No way.
They put a spotlight on the top of the ramp, and
I gotta look at this really quickly. You guys keep talking. I just gotta Google it.
Well, that was because Shawn Michaels is a saved again Christian.
Yeah, I remember.
And I think he was making jabs at Shawn, is what he was trying to do.
Well, Julian, you remember from the documentary while we watched, he was in a church saying, "Blessed be the name of Vincent Kennedy McMahon," or whatever from the church. That was part of that. Excuse me. That was part of that storyline, dude.
That was
really.
Yeah.
Oh, frig! Because I remember that promo. I forget this storyline, but I'm just watching God's holy entrance.
I'm Jordan Reed,
and we have a guest with us today. Would you mind introducing yourself, guest?
I'm Josh Thorne, and glad to be your first guest, guys. I've listened to every episode.
Yes, dude.
We're so pumped to have you. And I guess because we're just going to hop right into it. So, but we want to thank everybody for listening, supporting still. But we'll get more into that in the end of the episode. We don't want to, we want to hop right in because this is something that's pretty near and dear to our hearts. So as we were just chatting at the beginning, we're just going to do a full wrestling episode. We've all watched Vince McMahon documentary multiple times. I believe.
Oh, yeah.
We've all listened to podcasts. Josh, have you watched Dark Side the Ring?
Almost every episode. I haven't watched every episode.
I've watched a lot too. There's some episodes I don't watch where I'm I'm not really interested in that story. It's just not
exactly. I never watched the Screw Job episode because that's beaten to death. I don't need to see that again. I didn't need to see it in the documentary. It was probably my biggest issue with the documentary. But that's how I got my girlfriend into wrestling, was Dark Side the Ring.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
That is a good way, because it's literally the dark side of wrestling, which is basically 80% of wrestling. Once you really dive into wrestling is 20% is TV, other 80% is shady shit, man.
Shadiest, yeah.
Yep.
To hop in, I guess I want to talk a little bit about how we all kind of got into wrestling and what's our experiences with wrestling, if we ever saw any live wrestling or anything like that. And yeah, and Josh, since you're a guest, you go first.
Well, I've been watching wrestling as long as I can remember. My grandfather watched it. My father watched it. So it was always on in my house. I probably really started watching it when I was about 10. Me and my brother got into it with the Hardy boys, and we want to be tag team champions, right? So that's how I got into it. As for live shows, I've never seen WWE. I've gone to a good few local shows. I've seen a few WWE, like ex-WWE people at local shows. I got a signature from Hacksaw Jim Duggan when I was a kid. But,
deadly.
Yeah, like wrestling's pretty much been a very big thing for me. All my childhood, probably till high school. Gave it up in high school because, wrestling's not cool. And since I've been an adult, I pay a lot every week just to watch it. So,
yeah.
And I still watch weekly now.
Deadly. I want, we'll get into like local stories later because I want to hear some. I've never actually been to any of the like smaller promotion shows in Newfoundland, but I'm so curious in them. Like, I think they're so interesting. Jordan, what about you, bye?
Well, I remember when I was like six years old going next door to my cousin's house, and he had WWE No Mercy for N64.
Oh, dude, the best wrestling game ever.
Yeah, and I remember playing the shit out of that, and like that's pretty much it got me interested in the wrestling. But my most fun, I remember watching Raw every day before bed when I was like 12 and up. So like the Ruthless Aggression era was what I know is the best, I would say. And I still watch I goes up to Josh's and watches SmackDown with him every now and then and watches pay-per-views and shit.
What about you seen anything live before?
Yeah, I seen one live local show where I seen Eugene Dust.
We're gonna get into that later. We're gonna get into gimmicks and stuff later.
That's actually a great gimmick to talk about later because that would not fly today.
No, dude. I started watching, I think, when I was like 3 or 4, probably 4, with my stepdad, because like my mom, we were living in Stephenville, and my mom had me when she was young. So like, and then the guy that she met, he was like 23 and I was like 4, and he was obsessed with wrestling. He had a younger brother who was like 16, obsessed with wrestling. So I remember like going over there to be babysat by his younger brother and his buddies. I'm like 4 years. Man, people don't do this anymore. You know what I mean? No one like gets babysat by their
moms. Just run down the road. You're staying at this house for the day.
Yeah, and it's totally. Actually, I'm sure it was probably like like my stepdad's parents, my grandparents were babysitting me, but like my memories is hanging out with the boys, and they'd be watching like ECW, WCW, and this is the height. This is like the beginning and the height of the Attitude Era. And I got obsessed, like obsessed. My mom bought me WWF No Mercy for N64, which still to this day, I bet you that game still holds up. If you bought it and played it right now, I bet you it's sick. And then I watched until about high school too, but it wasn't an uncool thing for me. I just was like, it just wasn't the Attitude Era anymore. And Ruthless Aggression Era was starting to end around that time too. So it's like,
it was going
honestly, that's a big part of it. I think I'm more into the like craziness of it. And like when it became the PG era, which is, I totally understand the marketing and what you're trying to do. They're trying to make it more TV friendly and all that and try to get more kids into it. And plus, like, let's be honest, they exploited the shit out of women. And did some crazy stuff. So like I guess they were trying to move away from that. But yeah, I seen one WWE live event in St. John's, and it was crazy. It was at the Mile 1, I went with my mom, my stepdad, same stepdad who got me into wrestling, and my 2 cousins. We went in and we waited outside for all the wrestlers to like show up. I must have been like in grade 3 or 4. So this is like 2003, 2004. So this is
I think they stopped coming in 2005. So
yeah, this is one of the last times they came. RVD came, Kane came, Shane McMahon, Randy Orton, Lita, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, La Resistance, La Resistance they were a good gimmick for a bit.
They were.
Yeah, totally, man. And also like they fit this whole anti-French thing that, especially in Canada, it was just
especially in Newfoundland.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, I went and watched it, and when they showed up, they all played through their characters. Like Randy Orton didn't sign anyone's autograph. He flexed and lifted his shirt up. It was and then later on after the show, they all came back and signed autographs. But they wanted to be kayfabe for their entrance, which is totally cool because they don't come here and let's experience it that way. Oh, so Shane McMahon jumped across the ring. He had a hardcore match. I forget who it was with, but he jumped across the ring. He kicked him in the face with the garbage can on his face. Kane and RVD had a tag team match because that's when they were a tag team. Remember those days? That was a sick tag team. They were a great tag team. I forget who they wrestled.
Pick RVD up and throw him.
I think there was a bra and panties match, which is we'll talk about that. And then Dudley Boys fought a lot of resistance for the title. It was sick. They 3D'd him through a table, man. It was so cool.
That's
one of the coolest. Yeah. I would love to go see WrestleMania. I'm not even really into wrestling anymore, but what a sick or Royal Rumble. They still do the Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That would be a sick one too.
Up. Me and Jordan were talking about that the weekend.
Yeah, that's coming up in February, maybe.
Yeah, because I guess WrestleMania is April, right?
Usually.
I don't know the dates off the top of my head.
We'll go someday. We'll go someday.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. It's 2 days now. Just unreal. It's an event.
Yeah, and the thing is on both days they have great matches.
Oh yeah, they're some of the best matches. Even Logan Paul wrestling, because he's seems to be mostly a WrestleMania guy. He's not bad.
He's great, but I think in saying that he's great, I think anybody who had Shawn Michaels 24/7 to train them for their matches has to be great.
Yeah.
You got Shawn Michaels sitting down with you. He's scripting your matches. He's teaching you the moves to do. In my personal opinion, Shawn Michaels is the best. It's weird for a Canadian to say, especially with the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels screw job thing. But I think Shawn Michaels is hands down the best wrestler. He's kept my attention over generations. I loved Shawn Michaels when he was a drug addict state. I love Shawn Michaels 10 times more now that he's a born-again Christian, and loved him 10 times more when he became a trainer. He's just improved himself his whole career. So,
yeah, I'm a fan of him, but I'm not he just didn't he didn't get me going like some other people did. There was just certain other wrestlers that just really if I was at an event and they came out, I'd be part of the pop. You know when they say the big pop?
Yeah.
I'd be a big part of that. I think we were just talking about when we introduced everything, our eras that we were all kind of came into and whatnot. And there's another thing that the Vince McMahon documentary really tackles episode by episode. Really is going through the eras.
Through the eras. I think that was one of the best things they did. It was explain that there's different eras in wrestling.
Yes, and what I think the good thing, and what's crazy about it is every era has a controversy, or multiple. You look at the original era, which is I I forget what it's called now exactly, but it's the era of like 82 to the 90s, just like pre Attitude Era. In that one era, he had about, I think there was 3 controversies in that era. There's like the steroids. There's the woman wrestler that was apparently not woman wrestler, woman ref.
Yeah,
who was apparently No. Okay, we should go back. Not apparently, allegedly.
Allegedly, I was going to correct you when you were done.
Yeah. So the woman ref who was allegedly sexually assaulted by Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the ring boy controversy, which in itself is, I never knew about that one.
Neither did I.
That is the one thing from the documentary I didn't know.
That's crazy. That one is nuts. That there's like buys being, like there's a pedophile ring within. Yeah.
I got it wrote down here. That's not the first incident they had with the ring boys. They had that come to light in those days, and Vince fired what's buddy's name? Pat. I think Pat
Patterson?
I think it was Pat Patterson. Don't quote me on it. I could be getting the name wrong because
are you talking about the guy who was the leader of it all?
Yeah.
Oh, I forget what his name was, but he used to sing the national anthem at the events too. He was like of a promoter.
He was fired because of Touch and Ring Boys and hired back under the condition that he doesn't go near the Ring Boys. And then the scandal come out after.
That was probably Pat Patterson then.
I think it was. Was.
That's called the golden era, right? I think. Because it's from 82 to 93.
Yeah, the golden era. That makes sense. Yeah. Like that. Also, that era is just like nuts. Like because like where it spans 11 years, it spans some of the craziest things in the time. Because like the one thing that Vince wanted to play on is like taking storylines that are real in like life, but also like expanding them and dramatizing them a bit, like
the war, dude.
Well, I guess the big one is like the Iron Sheik, where like America and Iran have like horrible tensions. Vince, being the man he wants to be, is like, I got to get the belt to Hulk Hogan. So he's like, how do I get the belt to the American hero? And then he's like, oh, I'll get the fucking, like, the most hated guy in wrestling. And we're also going to play on him being more Iranian than we ever did. And, like, doing stuff like throwing the flag, the American flag, like, just being that propaganda image of a crazy, like, person from the Middle East. And then let's bring Hulk in to beat him and win the title. So, like, not only are we going to get the title to Hulk, the build-up was insane for that. They were interviewing people in the streets, and they were just like, what do you not like about Iron Sheik? And they're just like, he's from a different place. It's like, holy
it's fuck. Actually crazy. Jordan, could you do me a favor there and look up where the Iron Sheik is actually from? Because I'm pretty sure, I'm about 85% sure he is American.
Oh, well, dude, they always did stuff like that. Like, always, it's this guy's fucking this from this place, and they're actually.
That shows Vince's mentality.
He's actually Iranian. He is actually Iranian, though.
Is he? Okay, I thought he was American for some reason.
I think he lived in the States for a long time up to that point. The other really big one is Sergeant Slaughter going against America and becoming. Was it Iranian too? Was it or Iraqi? That was Iraqi. He was becoming Iraqi, and then like they were gonna
sympathizer.
They were gonna do some crazy shit, but then the Gulf War broke out. So Vince was like, "Okay, if people are actually going to be Americans are going to be dying, I can't go this far with it." So they had to pull back.
Well, it was WrestleMania 7 was the Sergeant Slaughter thing.
Yeah, I think that's the Hulk's last WrestleMania too.
And in that one, in WrestleMania 7, they had to change venues because of a threatened terrorist attack. In actuality, it wasn't a threatened terrorist attack. Because
it's Vince Slaughter. Just saying that. Yeah.
Well, they couldn't sell as many tickets because no one wanted to see that.
Yeah. Well, Sergeant Slaughter's not he was a great gimmick and stuff, but he's not a WrestleMania headliner. You know what I mean? Like, this is when wrestling WWF is starting to like lose those golden age people though. Like a lot of those people, like Andre's not around anymore. And I guess going back, because we're talking about the golden age, we got to talk about Andre the Giant. He just in like the terms of when him and Hulk wrestled, and they like made it to be like, oh well, these two people meeting for the first time. These two, Andre the Giant being this big heel when he was never a heel before.
No.
Hulk Hogan, the first person to ever slam him, and it's like
he'd been slammed like 30 times in Japan.
They wrestled like 3 or 4 times before, like just some of the like. But that's what Vince always did.
Yeah.
Well, he did it even with talking about that match. I got it written down here. Vince claims 93,000. The actual number, well, I don't know if it's actual, it's from Dave Meltzer is 76,000.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's no doubt that WrestleMania 3, man, that's when they used to come out in the mini ring. Like, what? And you could throw shit at people.
But do you know why they did that?
Why?
They did that for that WrestleMania because Andre couldn't move.
Couldn't walk to the ring.
He couldn't walk all the way to the ring. Andre's body was destroyed by that point. Because he had that giantism, like he had that hormonal issue, and he never got the surgery to fix it.
Oh fuck!
He just let himself keep growing, so his organs and everything were growing his whole life. Big Show has the same thing, but Big Show got the surgery in like his 20s or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but that's why they used those things to get the guys to the ring that time, was because Andre couldn't get down there. And another thing about that is I just had to laugh when Hogan said, "When did you know that you were winning the title?" It's like when the ref counted to 3. And I'm like, dude, there ain't no way Vincent Kennedy McMahon was sending the guy to the ring without knowing what he was doing.
I know. They play this up all the time, and I'm like, there's no. There is got to be a predetermined winner. How you get there, I totally believe can be called in the ring. But like some guy is winning.
2 guys like Andre and Hulk, they could call that in the ring all day long.
But Vince is not going to send the guys out there when there's no victor. With no victor, like
no, and that's the thing. What's his name? Is it Tony Bollea or whatever? Like Hulk's real name?
Tony Bone. Yeah, that sounds right. Tony.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he's got a French last name.
He seems like the biggest liar ever, and such a sketch bag because he's always there being like,
have written down on my paper. Oh, it won't pick up, but it says Hulk Hogan lies.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like he's always like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know the winner," and blah blah blah. And it's like, dude. Like, no way. You knew the winner.
He's his own biggest hero, dude.
Well, you find it from the Vince documentary. Vince kind of made Hulk Hogan. He was the one who did like a lot of the you need to be like this and this and this. And like, yeah, like he's the one who went and did it. But it's like a good actor having a good director, right? Where like Vince McMahon could be as fucked as whatever. He's made some of the best wrestling gimmicks ever.
It was like Vince's vision. That's what. Like, he was the one guiding him through it all, like telling him what to say and all this stuff. And he was the one doing the storylines and building the characters and shit. So yeah, it was mostly Vince.
The last controversy, which is like steroids, which they are all doing it. It was all obvious, and that's basically that steroid controversy is kind of like. Almost the death of the golden era then which leads like it because like the direct, I think, death of the golden era is like the kayfabe. Is it kayfabe or kayfab?
What's kayfabe?
Kayfabe. It's the kayfabe moment when Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and Scott What?
The curtain call.
The curtain call when they all hug in the ring and kiss each other and do all that stuff, make out or whatever.
Fuck it,
yeah. But so that's basically that, and Hulk leaving is essentially Hulk Hogan leaving the WWF to pursue acting or whatever, and the kayfabe moment.
In saying that, not trying to correct you, but he did Rocky before WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
And Vince was sucky as all hell about it.
Didn't he do WrestleMania? No, didn't he do Rocky before WrestleMania 1? And it was Vince McMahon Sr. who was pissed?
I don't think so. I'm not sure if Hulk worked for Vince Sr.
He definitely did.
He did, yeah, because when he left...
Vince Sr. never had anything televised, like not nationally televised, because he still had the territory agreement. That was probably the most ridiculous thing Vince did to his father, is that the territories was under an agreement that you don't cross those borders. Like you don't do that. It's like out here. Like, remember when we were kids, you can't go over to the fair when it's in Bay Roberts. You got to wait for it to come over here.
That's true, Bye.
Are you comparing WWE? Are you comparing wrestling borders?
That's what it was. It was like practically school borders. So like the territories, it was like Vince Sr. never signed a contract, but had a verbal agreement with all those guys that he'd never creep into their territories. Like that's just not something he's going to do. And then Vince Jr. ran with it and destroyed the territories. And then instantly, when WCW came after him, he plays the victim. That's what you did to the territories.
Yeah,
that's where I want to go, because with the end of the golden era, because then wrestling gets stagnant for a while. They had that 4-year period of like between 93 at the end of the golden era and the start of Attitude Era, which is like really stagnant wrestling, which I think WCW just takes over. And like, well, you look at that whole model, like they were just offering wrestlers a better gig, and like Vince was doing handshake agreements instead of real contracts.
Yeah,
and
that's why like guys like off. Yeah, like Lex Luger literally went on the like Nitro when he was still like he was with WWF the night before. The WCW though, like not even just like they did things that like really propelled wrestling forward in my opinion, which is like days off, things like that, but also like just way better storylines. What it was not PG-13 storylines. It's more like
edgier stuff.
Like more edgy. And
we had NWO.
Well, that's the thing. The first ever real
faction.
Yeah, factions. Like that's the first real faction of like more than 2 or 3 people getting together and being like all relatively the same. Like they even had people who didn't wrestle. Like Dennis Rodman used to just come out smoking cigars.
Yeah.
And just being like, and like Dennis Rodman is the face of edginess at that time. Like he was like a mega famous base basketball player, but also like really just crazy.
Piercings, dyed hair. Like you wouldn't see that shit back then.
No. And then you get Eric Bischoff. Like WCW did some in just crazy stuff. Like saying the results of Raw live is
that was nuts.
And I've actually seen, but I've seen something recently on this. It was a podcast that Eric Bischoff was on with Mick Foley. And one of the nights that Eric Bischoff said was the night that Mick Foley beat The Rock, maybe for the belt.
When he won WWF title.
WWF title. I think like Stone Cold comes in, like fucking stunners like 5 people, like just one of those moments. And then Mankind, Mick Foley, beats him for the belt, beats The Rock for the belt. But what happened on Nitro, or like whatever, it might have been actually, it was Nitro, Nitro was like, don't bother watching Raw tonight. Mick Foley wins the title, and that's not something that it's really worth watching. And then Mick Foley's on this podcast being like, man, that really hurt my feelings. Like when you did that, like it really ruined a big moment in my life.
But if you look at the ratings, as soon as they said that, WCW plummeted in ratings and everybody turned to watch WWF at that time.
Yeah, I'm just a way, like, there's even a part of me that's like that when WCW was good, that's almost as best as WWF has ever been. Like that, those couple of years when it's fucking like Hulk Hogan coming out, man, that heel turn is the biggest heel turn in wrestling history. They thought people were going to someone storm the ring, and they beat the shit out of them.
Well, they had cops outside the building that night because they didn't know how it was going to go.
Oh, well, they were just, oh, man. And the one thing I'll give Hulk is, like, he knew exactly what to do. Like, being like, come on, throw more, like.
He's a great entertainer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but, man, you could just, back then in the 90s, you could throw half-empty beer cans on stage, and nothing would happen to you. Because it's that type of event where that stuff happens.
That's what they wanted. They wanted crowd interaction.
Your sign could say whatever the fuck you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen some foul ones, like, guys are just gay.
Oh, yeah.
You could just say that back then and get away with it. This day and age, you can't say shit.
Well, they check all your signs now when you go to an event. Your sign has to pass a certain standard. Like, I think it was during COVID and all that when they were having the Thunderdome.
Oh yeah,
someone managed to put Chris Benoit up on screen.
Do you know what this is, Julian? Like what they were at during COVID? Like they had all the TVs around. Like, there was no one in the arena. It was just a bunch of TVs, and you could watch online, and you could get picked to watch. And that's what the audience was. You see on TV was a bunch of computer screens, essentially. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Dust. But I mean, it was better than nothing, I guess. That was a weird time for wrestling, man.
I didn't watch it at that time because without crowd noise, wrestling is hard to watch, man.
Well, dude, they had some WrestleManias from the fucking Performance Center, I'm pretty sure. And like you could hear everything in the ring. All the moans and it was dust.
You can hear when the hits don't connect.
Yes, man. And COVID was a rough time for wrestling. Dust.
Well, the thing about like they could stay and do whatever they want, that really like leads into like the Attitude Era of WWF. Because like no doubt, like WCW was like, we're doing this thing, but then once WCW started getting stale, WWF was like, here you have Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's basically almost the birth of the Attitude Era there, essentially. Like that whole Austin 316. Cold.
And then he brought in Mike Tyson, and it was just game over.
Well, exactly. And that was the time of pushing boundaries when Mike Tyson literally just got out of jail for rape.
That's crazy.
And then he's on fucking and then like being part of DX, and like DX is like they basically had like Girls Gone Wild DX segments.
No, DX was absolutely absurd. Like I'm sure Jordan can vouch for this. They've tried to reboot DX like twice now, I think it is.
Yeah, they have.
Maybe 3 times. And they cannot even do some of the jokes that the boys used to do. Like, it is crazy what they got away with.
2006, they rebooted them, and then they rebooted them again in 2009. And 2006 DX was actually, I thought it was goodbye. I thought it was a good era of well, it was like when I was watching the most.
Was that the Spirit Squad?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all right then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just also very young.
Well, yeah, I was 14 and like the boys were saying, "Oh, Vince loves cock" and all that stuff. I was dying at it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Dropping the thing about like literal gallons of shit on
emptying porta potties on. Yes, man.
The big thing about Attitude Era too is, and like DX, like a lot of their jokes were good, but then they also did like, there was that like one segment where remember they open the door and like two of them are like, it's a joke of they're getting ready to have non-consensual sex with a woman, I believe.
You see your feet. They're carrying their feet across.
Yeah.
So it's like you see like, and that's it. And it's just like, that's not a very, very good joke to make.
No, it's not. And like even back then, like that's probably something even in the 30s that probably shouldn't be on TV. You know what I mean? It just is like
and like be on TV in general.
No, it was a bit much. But Attitude Era is great for like certain things like, well, like Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon's rivalry is just like the most famous thing ever.
Vince McMahon played the best heel that wrestling ever had. That does not give him carte blanche to do whatever all the stuff he's accused of doing.
No.
But at the same time, it's just like, he was great. I don't think we need to talk about him anymore if all this stuff is true, which I believe it is. But at the same time, like, wrestling is a weekly show. Forget that now. We don't need to see clips of Vince. We don't need to see clips of Stone Cold. We're like, if you want to go back, show us ruthless aggression. You've managed to get wrestling to go on perfectly fine by cutting Chris Benoit out of all of your stuff. Cut Vince McMahon out because he was only in for, the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era. Other than that, he was a commentator.
No, totally. And I think the Attitude Era, just like the rivalries, well, like The Undertaker back then was just like one of the coolest characters in wrestling ever. The birth of Kane, like just all those gimmicks and all those.
They were way more exploratory with the gimmicks then too.
Well, you could do more. You know what I mean? Like you could do, and like whether that's bad, like good or bad, is kind of like up for speculation and all that stuff because it's like you're choosing to watch it. So you are like, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say.
Let's jump back real quick there, boys, to the documentary. One thing I noticed is that documentary started talking about Vince's life when he was 12. Yeah. There's nothing in Vince's life besides the Playboy interview, which, Julian, do you know what the Playboy interview is?
Yeah, it's him talking about cheating on his wife.
That is the least he talked about in that. He very heavily alluded to the fact he was sexually assaulted by his own mother.
He kind of gets to that in the documentary, like that there was some weird things going on.
He hints at it, but he doesn't exactly drive the point home. And I think his first 12 years and that interview line up real well together to just set the kind of man, the kind of person he became.
Well, the other thing is that he doesn't talk about why he doesn't meet his dad until that age. So it's like, why did that happen? And then he also like talks about he doesn't want anyone to actually know the real him. And like, he's the only person that knows the real him, which is like going back to him. He just tells on himself.
Yeah.
He tells on himself. He's so narcissistic and sociopathic. He can't
help himself. He can't help himself, dude.
He can't. When he's talking about, is it with the sexual assault of the ring?
The ref.
The ref, yes. when he says, even if it did happen, it's past the statute of limitations. It's like, you just said you did it. You just admitted to it. But in my opinion, if you were alluding to the fact that you can't get in trouble for it anymore, you are.
Who knows the statute of limitations on that stuff if you haven't done it?
Yeah, you should.
Can you tell me the statute of limitations on it, guys? Because I don't know. I think if you did that stuff, you could go to jail for the rest of your life. Like, at any time. You're a horrible human, locked you up.
Yeah. But that's the other thing. Like, this is probably not the statute of limitations chat, but that might be the weirdest thing ever. That, okay, I could do this, but in like this many years, you guys can't do anything to me anymore. It's like, but you still did it. Like, you should be able to. Yeah,
you still should be able to go to jail for doing it. Like, it's ridiculous. And then other than the first 12 and the Playboy interview, Jimmy Snuka.
Oh, dude, that's something we wanted to talk about too. Like that whole controversy about him killing his girlfriend.
He did. I will not.
No, he did. Yeah.
At this point, yeah, he killed her. What the documentary doesn't talk about is the fact that Vince went into Jimmy's last interview and walked out with Jimmy Snuka. So, like, what did he say, do, or pay to get Jimmy Snuka off with a blatant murder? If you can pay or talk your way out of a man taking someone's life, that shows the value you have for someone's life. Like, I think a lot of the things, we should have seen it before. As a child, I thought he was playing a character. Now, as an adult, I realized, no, Vince McMahon was the character. Mr. McMahon was him.
Well, the thing, like, you're talking about him having no regard for human life. Fucking a dude died in the ring, and he still kept on with the pay-per-view.
He kept the show going, dude. Like, what? Had to wheel him past the buys, and the buys had to say, "Oh, we're fighting for you, Owen," when they already knows he's passed away.
Dead. He was already dead at that point.
The Jeff Jarrett interview is crazy when he's like, he got to like wipe his eyes, and like the girl he's with, she's just crying. Like,
and then he got to cut a fucking promo on Val Venus, then of all people. Like, my God.
Yeah. You want these he basically like, like it's like he's trying not to cry and he's talking about misses his boobs at the same time. It's like, oh my God, man.
Well, the thing about that is too, in the documentary, they kind of play it off like Vince didn't get in trouble for that. No, he was charged. He went to court and he paid a settlement.
Oh yeah, he paid Owen's family, definitely.
He paid Stu Hart and he paid Owen's wife. I'm blanking on her name right now, but Stu was
Jill, I think maybe Jill. I don't know.
He paid the two of them off. If you're paying for it, you obviously did something wrong. If you're paying in a settlement, if you didn't do something wrong, keep Owen on his contract. Just because the man died doesn't mean you can't pay out his contract to his family. I have worked at places where that's happened. I've had contracts with garages where I had a buddy of mine who passed away while he was working with us. That garage paid out the rest of his contract to his family. That's what a decent company would do. If you go into court and pay the settlement, you obviously did something wrong if you're paying the settlement. Like, if either one of you looked at me and took me to court tomorrow, I'm not paying the settlement. We're going to fight tooth and nail. I didn't do nothing wrong. You know? Yeah. Like, if you pay it, you did something.
Vince, following along with the story, like being the genius that he is and the crazy person he is, ends up buying WCW, which it gives wrestling like that Attitude Era the last couple good years, and also like weeds a lot of people out of the business. That it's like you shouldn't be fighting wrestling in like this tier anymore. it births a lot of new stars like Booker T. I love Booker T. I thought he was awesome.
Booker T is one of the best. The best commentator I've seen in my adult life.
It brings Ric Flair back to the WWF and WWE. Like, as problematic as he is, was just like
he's still
awesome.
Legend in the ring.
Yeah, and then you get like this is the birth of new factions. Like
we got to talk about Shane McMahon, guys.
Yeah, watching him with the kids.
He's like the unsung hero of this the whole documentary, really.
Dude, this documentary made him look like gold.
It did.
And I've always thought it because, like, he left because of all this shit.
Yeah, dude.
Well, he's too nice.
He's too nice.
That's what they all say. They all say he's like he would be they can't let him run the company because he would be taken advantage of immediately.
They walk all over him.
I don't know if they would now.
Yeah, maybe not now. They wouldn't. Because like there's more like respect than I'd say that like there's not as many big egos. I would say I don't know.
That's unfair to say because Tony Atlas said
that is
even
crazy,
now,
actually, yeah.
Even now, because I think Shane is like, yeah, like no, he doesn't want to. He wasn't down for a lot of those storylines, like the one. Like he hated the storyline about like Linda in the wheelchair and Trish Stratus.
Dude, that's his mom.
I know, that's what I mean. But like he like Linda was down for it. He wasn't.
But exactly, that shows that he's a normal, decent human being.
He was
exactly.
He was just a fucking daredevil who just wanted to impress his dad. That's all Shane was, man.
He just wanted that hug, man.
He also didn't like Vince and Stephanie fighting each other's storyline. And he didn't like Stephanie's relationship being born out of a storyline.
Triple H, yeah.
Well, the thing is that it wasn't just a relationship. Triple H cheated on his girlfriend with Stephanie.
China.
Is that true?
Yeah, he was with China. He was in a legitimate relationship with China.
Oh, 100%.
And he cheated on China with Stephanie McMahon. That's like, dude, talk about eating where you shit.
Hey, bye.
Like, you're shitting on your table, bud.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna the boss's daughter and the top female at the time.
Yeah,
like,
and like actually, Triple H and China have a old like documentary together. It's pretty good too. I used to own it on I used to own it on VHS. I bet you I still do at the house.
China's life became really sad though. Like she's probably one of the people I feel the worst for in wrestling.
Yeah, but then she made a return before she died.
She did make her last hurrah, but she wasn't like, dude. The glory years of her life were taken by the company, and she was used, abused, and tossed.
I remember it was after she left and after she made the sex tape, they wouldn't. That was a big thing about her not being inducted to the Hall of Fame because if anyone was to Google China, they just get porn results, and that was their excuse or whatever. So yeah. They wiped her name clean for a long time.
Yeah, she was blackballed for a good few years. They'd talk about DX and they'd mention everybody besides China.
Well, Vince wanted to monetize Triple H's and Stephanie's wedding too.
Yeah, he did. He did want to make it a pay-per-view. And Stephanie actually grew a backbone for once and stood up to her father.
She said no, so he beat the shit out of her a couple of weeks in like a street fight before her wedding. Dust.
No, not a couple weeks before her wedding.
It was
6 days.
Oh yeah, it was yeah.
6 days.
Oh my god.
Before her wedding. Could you imagine a bad bump? Like with a chair shot or like a garbage can?
Dude.
I'll take to bust your face open.
She's just walking in the aisle stiff as fuck then.
It's ridiculous.
It is nuts.
And about Shane, like Jordan, you said he's a daredevil. Like He's done some of the craziest things ever. Like,
dude, every bit of scaffolding ahead, he'd jump off it.
Yeah,
the scaffolding doesn't even impress me as much as when he had the glass with Kurt Angle.
Dude.
Or was it Kurt Angle?
It was Kurt Angle, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was Kurt Angle.
That's fucking CTE in 10 years written all over it.
His head off the concrete floor, dude.
3 times. Shane jumping off, like, I think he's jumped off like 4 or 5 Hell in the Cells, like all that scaffolding. The guy is insane. I think he's a great wrestler. And I've also heard in interviews of like people being like, Shane was great. Like, he's one of those guys that's easy to wrestle with because I guess he's so like.
He's very safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt the other guy. He'll hurt himself before he'll hurt the other person.
WrestleMania 32, he had a match with AJ Styles, and it was the best match on the whole show. No bullshit, because it was a pretty weak WrestleMania. And I think this is one where Roman Reigns beat Triple H for the title because Triple H just won at the Royal Rumble. Dust.
And everybody hated Roman.
Yeah. But yeah, Shane had a match with AJ Styles, and he did a shooting star press perfectly, and it was sick.
Man, his top rope stuff is beautiful. The man has watched it since he was in diapers, alive.
Yeah,
he sees the stuff we don't.
Yeah, he has cruiserweight type of stuff.
Yeah, he wrestles. He almost gives me kind of Hurricane vibes.
Yeah,
the way he wrestles, he kind of wrestles like Hurricane.
Didn't he have the hardcore belt for a bit back in the day? I think he did.
I'd say.
Like, that was always his specialty, right? Like, because he needed to, like, use...
He needed to climb stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, he needed to be able to, like, put a... Yeah, totally. He needed to be able to put, like, a garbage can on your head and kick you in the face.
I just looked up. He has won the hardcore title before. And the European title, apparently.
Oh, I forgot about the European title.
I'd say so, dude. It's so forgettable. It sucks, man, because it was, like, one of their big...
Yeah.
Like mid-card titles back in the 90s, 2000s. But they changed the U.S. title, right? Or was the U.S. title on to go back then too?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, so
yeah, man.
Oh, no, maybe it was Intercontinental.
Not ECW. WCW used to have the television title.
Oh, yeah. AEW has that now, too, don't they?
Now. Impact does, I thought.
Yeah. Is like the TNT one or something?
TNT, Television Network title. I think
Guys,
that was it.
We're going to get into TNT later because their videos have been popping up on my algorithm. And holy shit, does that look trash.
Or AEW, you mean?
No. TNA Impact looks bad.
Yeah, all of it looks bad.
No, man. The acting, they got Hulk Hogan in the ring, and it's just horrible.
Oh, you're talking about the second Monday Night Wars, man.
Terrible times. Dude, when TNA recruited all the legends, man, oh, dear Jesus.
Before we start talking about it, we got to ask Julian, do he know about the second Monday Night Wars?
Yeah, did you watch TNA, bro, at all?
No.
Okay, so there was a second Monday Night Wars. Like, you know how Nitro was up against Raw? Yeah, well, Impact back in the day, like this is probably when, like, in high school, when I was, like, dabbling, watching a little bit of wrestling.
Impact started, it started in 2004, I believe, Impact, or 2002 or some shit, and it was on Spike TV.
I know of it, yes.
Yeah, back in like 05 and 06, like onward.
So they used to have Monday night shows at the exact same time Raw was running.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, that was the second Monday Night Wars, man. They didn't do it for very long, but they had Eric Bischoff to come in.
Yeah, they did. This is the video I was watching. It was Hulk, Eric Bischoff, and Kevin Nash on stage. And Hulk was like, well, let me tell you, we got to give it over to these new guys, AJ Styles. Like, it was basically, oh, man, it was fucking bad.
Dust, yeah.
It was bad. But
yeah,
Jordan, you brought up great WrestleMania matches, and going ahead with our years, we're around it. Like Vince just bought WCW and stuff. Rock wrestling, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 18. In my opinion, I haven't seen WrestleMania in a while, but that's got to be one of the best matches ever.
The crowd loved it. I don't see. This was maybe
me and Jordan have a different view because we know a lot of moves and we know how people can move through those rings. And great.
That style of wrestling is just dust, in my opinion.
You got to be kind of polite about it. I understand where people appreciate it, but at the same time, man, I could do that.
It's just walking, brawling, and all this shit, and it's just not for me, man.
Oh, it's deadly. It's crowd.
But their personalities make a difference.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Crowd got really involved in that, but that does make that match 10 times greater than what it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll probably never see two bigger people
in their
well, not primes, but the passing of the quite literal torch of the face.
Yeah, that was a literal passing of the torch.
The face of wrestling passing it to the face of wrestling, and it's the crowd, right?
It was a big deal.
We got to think a lot of the people who were into into Hulk Hogan when they were kids were then probably in their 20s/30s.
Right.
So then they're super into fucking that match. And even people say, even in Vince's documentary, that wrestling is now makes more money than it ever did, blah, 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 blah. But it was never more popular than it was then.
No, people weren't as invested. People
are invested.
People don't shed tears over wrestling like they did. With Hulk Hogan, all the women would cry and all that shit and all that. People would get very emotional. I don't think people get set into it these days, do they?
Since Triple H has got back in, man, since Triple H has taken over the company, since Paul Levesque has taken over the company, because he's Paul Triple H Levesque now.
Right.
Which is such a weird thing to see. Since he's taken over the company, man, I honestly feel like he's made a few guys superstars. I feel like he's made a few wrestlers. I can tell you right now, there's probably 20 guys on that roster who can walk through a mall and no one would recognize them. But
there's only a couple guys I'd recognize. I'd recognize Roman Reigns. I'd recognize I'd recognize Damien, Rey Mysterio's son.
Yeah.
Dominic, yeah.
Sorry. I'd recognize Damien Priest.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd recognize... Does The Miz still wrestle sometimes?
Yeah, he do, man.
He do, yeah.
I'd recognize him. I'd recognize AJ Styles. I'd recognize CM Punk.
He does have guys that he created. Maybe not created, but guys that he's made look really good. Like LA Knight. LA Knight is a superstar. No matter where he goes, LA Knight is getting recognized. You might not know him because you don't watch it weekly and you don't your feed and your stuff like that isn't filled with his promo. He's the new Slim Jim guy.
Yeah.
That's how big Triple H made LA Knight.
He'll be a world champion these days. He got to be.
He'll be one of those guys that you can buy a poster of in 20 years.
Yeah. I agree.
I got posters of Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Junkyard Dog, Andre. He's gonna be on one of those plaques.
I think that's face it. I think it's safe to say.
I think Triple H has changed the way wrestling is, and now wrestling is at that point again, Julie. It's at the point where it is as popular as it was back in the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as edgy, but dude, It coming to Netflix though, dude. That's gonna be nuts.
It's going to Netflix, and we're
it's
also
gonna be good.
older.
Yeah, we are.
I'm gonna start watching it. I'm gonna give it a shot when it comes back to Netflix.
It'll probably it might get more edgy too. Who knows?
Well, it's not gonna be PG-13.
No, it's not. It's TVMA. It's not. It's like mature, not rated, basically.
Yep.
It's going to
be
a
live performance.
Is it going to be SmackDown too, or just Raw?
Just Raw.
Fuck. Well, I'll watch
Raw's better. Raw's always better.
I don't know, man. Think about when Batista and Rey Mysterio were like running together back in the day. That was SmackDown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always a bigger fan of Raw. Yeah, and I was also a bigger fan of when it wasn't separated, when you fight on both, you wrestle on both.
I don't like wrestling on both.
Another
thing I want to bring up.
Fucking Boz getting interviewed on WWF No Mercy backstage and fucking running and jumping them.
There was one thing in the documentary that stood out to me like crazy. They were talking to Vince about Sonny coming back. And that's when Vince made Sonny his girlfriend. Storyline. Like, right? Just to give you guys context. So they asked him about that, like after Sonny quit. And then she came back.
Do you mean Sable?
I might meet Sable.
You definitely, because they didn't talk about
Sable.
Okay, fair
Sorry.
enough.
No, I'm mixing up. I got a note here for Sunny. Always Sunny Days is what I got wrote down next to it.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
and it messed me up.
Yeah. Go on. But yeah, Sable.
So he brought Sable back. And in the interview, they asked him about it. And yeah, she came back as your girlfriend was the quote. I can't pick that out of my scribbles.
Go, yeah.
And Vince is like staring at the camera, like just like, what do you mean she came back as my girlfriend? And then from the side, someone yells out, "Storyline girlfriend."
It was Paul Heyman.
I believe it was Paul Heyman. I'm not sure. I didn't have subtitles on the last time I watched it.
Yes, man. I remember the exact part you're talking about.
Yeah, it stood out to me like crazy. So I think Vince's condition for Sable coming back was to be his girlfriend.
Well, because like they talk about another lawsuit was Sable. He's like, I don't remember much about a lawsuit, but I remember she should come back to work. So like he brushes it off so like quickly.
Yeah,
it's like he has selective memory when it comes. Like he's so fucking dust, man.
He's a sociopath, allegedly.
No, but with going ahead with because wrestling becomes stagnant again in like that early 2000s period.
Yeah,
just before Ruthless Aggression, because like WCW guys are in. That whole kind of thing kind of dries up because now they're like those wrestlers are now just WWE wrestlers. So it's like, okay,
it's just like 130 guys on the roster.
Yeah.
So like, how are you gonna put on any good storylines when you got? Let's tell this story about this guy this week.
Well, the Versus storyline when it was WWF versus and like Vince was WWF and then Shane and Stephanie were WCW. That was a good storyline. That was good. But then like it started getting stagnant, and then like Ruthless Aggression, which you get like John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, Ric Flair is huge in the Ruthless Aggression.
Dude, he built 90% of those guys with matches he had.
Yeah, so like, and then you have like Evolution, Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, Ric Flair. In terms of like factions, probably like four of the most famous dudes.
They were the biggest faction. Yeah. Like
in terms of like, all four of them could walk anywhere and you would know who they are.
Yeah.
There's only one faction that ever rivaled Evolution, and that's the Four Horsemen.
Well,
And Ric Flair is the guy you're going to say the Shield, but we know you. I know that's because Seth Rollins was for you. But in long-term storytelling, I think it's only the Four Horsemen and Evolution that really just took off. Like, you pick these nobodies and not nobodies in the Four Horsemen, but nobodies in Evolution. Like, Batista wasn't even the first pick for Evolution.
No.
And now he's literally probably the second biggest actor to ever start at WWE.
Except for The Rock.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Rock's first, he's second.
Yeah.
Third,
he's the second
no
biggest.
doubt. And yeah, in the Ruthless Aggression era, you get one of Vince's biggest controversies, the XFL.
Oh my gosh. What a joke.
That was something else to see, though. We lived through that.
That's how much confidence that man has. I'm just going to create a sports league.
Yeah.
He thinks he's as big as the NFL.
Well, the problem, and the thing is, the NFL's on like 4 nights a week. Why would, it's enough. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough football.
And dude, all the best players who play football already play in NFL. So what you're going to get for XFL players are fucking dusters. So who's going to want to watch that?
And I'd say there's people in the CFL didn't want to leave either.
No.
So you're probably getting the third best.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of dusters playing football with WWE stuff wrapped around it. Like, who would want that? Yeah,
like it was not ever viable. What a disgrace.
The reason for watching WWE is the storyline.
Yeah.
And the fact that, to me as an adult, I don't know, maybe it's different to kids, but the fact that it's all scripted and they're not trying to hurt each other makes it 10 times more interesting to me. I find that very interesting that you're not trying to hurt each other. In football, I want to see people knock each other out. Just run through a guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And so I guess we'll kind of end the part about wrestling and wrestling history probably with the 2 last controversies, because we started talking about Vince McMahon. It's just we'll end talking about him, even though there's more about in wrestling's future. I don't have much to add after Ruthless Aggression, because I kind of just completely dropped out. I think a lot of us have spotty knowledge of those eras, so we basically covered what we know. And in terms of eras that I watched, I think because I only watched 2, to be honest: Ruthless Aggression and Attitude.
Are you going for your Mount Everest right now?
What was it?
Are you going for your Mount Everest right now?
Mount Everest? You mean Mount Rushmore?
We will in a bit, yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound like you were starting out.
One controversy is the 2 big ones. The next big one is Chris Benoit. And we won't get too much into this because it's I just hate
it's not fun to talk about.
No, what he did is despicable. I do not believe I really believe he did it. I think he was really messed up. I think he had a lot of issues. I don't think it was all his fault, but I do think he did it. So, but, the whole thing, because that controversy revolves around kind of the same thing. It's kind of old things rearing their head, head injuries, steroid use, all this. And like CTE, like Chris Benoit like kills his whole family. And like you said, they erased him. He doesn't exist in WWE anymore. Like there's no information on the websites or anything like that. It's just crazy because it leads on to this whole thing of like, well, brain injuries aren't real.
Well, dude, in the documentary, Stone Cold Steve Austin is a CTE denier.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Any man who's taken as many hits to the head as him, like, I haven't taken many. I trained kickbox for a bit, like for a couple years. Like I sparred every Thursday. I can tell you right now, CTE is real. Like I wish when we sparred, I wore headgear. I thought it was stupid. I haven't been punched in the head enough to have full-on CTE, but there's like, oh, I forgot that about training. And then I see the video, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that is true. Like, well, CTE is a real thing.
Well, then Vince started to believe in it. Like, a lot of the wrestlers still don't, but like they took chair shots. You could chair shot still, but it's a $10,000 fine. Something I found out. Yeah. So, if you still there's still matches every now and then who have them, but it's like huge matches. You know what I mean? Like it's only saved for people who are got the money to pay that.
Well, the last time I seen it is probably the time you've heard about it. Is Undertaker and Triple H.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
they thought they could get away with it. They were like, "Oh, who cares? Like, what are they going to do to me?" Like, and this is from Undertaker's mouth. I listen to his podcast every week. He said, well, I don't have the direct quote, so but he said something along the lines of, I'm his top guy, you're his son-in-law. What's he gonna do?
Yeah, I remember hearing you said that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a guy who never speaks ill of Vince either. Undertaker.
No. Well, that's another thing I got written down is Undertaker. Well, for one, the streak. Vince talked a little bit of bullshit about the streak. I think Undertaker claimed he was a father figure to his whole life.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people said that.
Yeah, I know, but Undertaker's the guy I believe. The rest of them were on contract when they said that.
Fair enough.
The only person who said that in the Talking Head segment of that wasn't on contract was Undertaker. And I could be wrong. He could still be under a Legends contract, but I don't see him ever wrestling again.
Dude, he can't take a bump, I don't think. Can he? He had a bunch of surgeries and everything, but like, fuck. He's held together by nuts and bolts.
He replaced knees. He has fused discs. Like
he would look bad in the ring now.
Well, dude, do you remember his last match? Do you remember his last match, dude?
Saudi Arabia?
Him and Triple H against Kane and Undertaker in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, what an embarrassment for those four fellas by.
Yeah, no way. No. Then moving on to the last controversy of the documentary and basically where wrestling is kind of heading now is going to be this decision in a lot of these trials and whatnot. And it's Vince being accused of human trafficking and sexual assault.
Yeah.
With supposed texts, alleged texts that he was like texting other people being like, I'm going to give you this woman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Brock Lesnar's involved.
Well, we haven't heard from Brock Lesnar in ages, and I wonder fucking why, dude.
Yeah.
Well, he was accused in this documentary, so that's going to slow down anything else. I'm as far as Brock goes, I don't know enough about Brock as he hasn't been in the public eye long enough for me to know everything about him. Like Vince has slipped up enough times, as we've talked about, for me to understand how Vince is as a true person. Brock Lesnar barely did promos on WWE. Other than that, his UFC post-fight stuff. Like, you just fought a guy for 15 minutes. Like, I don't know him enough to say anything. If he's accused of it, I would assume he is at fault. But besides the Brock Lesnar stuff, I think everything we went over today just kind of sums up the kind of person Vince McMahon is. So, yeah, there are alleged charges, but I think we really showed what he thinks of human life, let alone women.
Well, yeah. Everything he did was for money and business, dude. And if you got in his way, so be it, dude. He didn't give a fuck. And he thought he could do whatever he wanted and there were no repercussions.
Yeah.
He could just buy his way to everything.
And he tried to. Even with this last case, what is it, 3 million or 3 billion? I think it's 3 million. Sounds more right to me. I think it's $3 million in hush money.
Yeah, and also what allows for a lot of this to happen is Vince McMahon not owning the company anymore. Like other people taking, like TKO taking over a lot of this merging and all this, where he doesn't run stuff and he probably can't hide stuff as well anymore, especially in the digital age. That's the thing. Like, this is a bigger conversation for another time, but it kind of leads on with, like, if you did anything shitty, you will eventually be caught. You will. Yep. You will. They're going to catch you. Like, they're catching murderers all the time from people who murdered back in the day.
Yeah, there's 23andMe and stuff. Like, man,
yeah, there's always stuff coming out about this person. As once a woman feels comfortable and safe about saying something, if you did it, you're finished, as you should be, because you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. So you deserve everything you get. And if for some reason all this is a lie and Vince McMahon is innocent, I'll eat my own words.
Yeah. That's a great point of view.
But he's not. He's not. And I can say that.
I agree with you. I can confidently say he is not innocent. We pointed out enough stuff today to say the man has no respect for human life. He has no respect for women. We didn't even get into bra and panties matches or
the
what
fact that they even, dude, do they even exist? What? Why?
Why? Like, it's PG-13 even at that time. You're having bra and panties.
It's twisted shit, man.
Like, dude, imagine you're
the live sex.
Oh my god, do you remember that? Edge and Lita.
Yeah. We all remember it. But why was it on Monday Night TV?
It's not WWE, but I think it's AEW. I sent Jordan the video the other day when Billy Gunn is walking out of the ring and they're like, "Oh, you just go do more pills and all this." It's like just calling it people's addictions. Just crazy shit. Crazy. Well, dude, there's a book. Literally, it's called like Vince McMahon and like the Downfall of America. Basically, they're trying to say that like wrestling has led to like just like this whole dramatization of everything, and like wrestling helped with that.
But Trump.
Well, look at Trump.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's a fucking wrestling character. Like,
he's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
yeah.
That's problematic.
And Linda McMahon is on his cabinet again, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. That's why she's getting a divorce or split up from Vince for political career. Well, she was at that when she first got into politics or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. It was either she split up or threatened to split up with him or something along those lines.
Mm.
So, let's move on to the end and some more happier stuff.
Greener pastures.
Greener pastures. Let's do our Mount Rushmore first, which is 4 wrestlers. I don't think you need. Just give your reasoning on each person, and I don't think it needs to be like there. I don't think there's much debate. It's totally up to people's interpretation of what made them happy. And one thing, we didn't talk about ECW, but maybe someday we might do an episode on ECW. ECW is something I'm not as well versed on. We would need to like probably watch some old stuff, but that shit used to be crazy. And so if you have a wrestler from ECW, any promotion, anything ever.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be just WWE. Josh?
I haven't really thought of this.
I'll start, will I?
Go on. Yeah, give her. You're the guest.
All right. Well, I've said it multiple times, so I just got to count them off. Is Shawn Michaels is my top one. I'm not a very big guy. I'm short. I'm a small guy. That's my wrestling style. Would just be a brawler, striker, and do a couple cool moves off top rope.
Good luck.
After that, I would probably have to say Bret Hart, just because of his technicality, how well versed he is in the art. I wasn't prepared for this question, guys. I don't have this one written down. And maybe Ric Flair for his longevity. The way he's held the company, he's held multiple companies at the top for so long. And then other than that, I'd have to give it to Undertaker. And as a bonus fifth, Sailor White, because we never got into local stuff.
Oh, yeah. Friggin' Sailor White. That's a whole other thing on itself. That could be its own podcast episode, too.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Jordan, you're 4?
Oh, Jesus. Okay. I'm going to go with Stone Cold, just because he's the best. I don't know, dude. No one got reactions like Stone Cold, man. Everyone popped so hard for him. He was like the coolest, most badass guy. Everything he did with Vince, like, who wouldn't want to beat the shit out of their boss and everything by? Like, fuck.
Exactly.
I go with The Rock because he's the best person on the mic ever. Like, he would the way he destroyed everyone on the mic was the best, and he would do the little concerts in the ring. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Who else? I guess I'll go with Hulk Hogan just because it's a cheap answer, but like, he was the original fucking icon in wrestling, and like, everyone knows who Hulk Hogan is even to this day.
Yeah. And
lastly, I'm gonna go with Edge because he's my favorite wrestler growing up, and I thought he was sick. Like I don't have really much to say about Edge. He was an unreal wrestler, and yeah.
This is a great choice. I kind of regret not thinking of Edge, honestly.
Dude, the rated R superstar is iconic, and like, he had the first ever cash in with Money in the Bank.
The best too.
Yeah.
My 4, Stone Cold, for basically all the same reasons you used, Jordan. Also, just like that whole anti-hero thing is incredible, where he's kind of a heel, but is a heel you can get behind. Yeah. The Rock, for the same reasons. The Rock was my favorite wrestler for so long. Like, I thought he was fucking awesome. I was so upset when he left wrestling back in the day. And maybe that's one of the main reasons I stopped watching, is because a lot of those guys just stopped getting out of it. I wasn't as interested. I would say Undertaker, and a specific Undertaker being like Paul Bearer Undertaker and like Undead Undertaker. And also his return as Undead, like American Badass back to Undead when Kane killed him. That's one of the best returns ever, man. I remember watching that when they fucking buried him.
My favorite of all time. Driving down with that motorcycle.
And Jeff Hardy, which is it's not like your typical answer, but I loved Jeff Hardy, and I loved like the Hardy Boys. That was like my favorite, just coming out and being like fucking, and him swanton bombing and all those sick moves they used to do, just high flying. What's some of the best gimmicks ever, do you guys think? I think like Stone Cold's a great gimmick, an amazing gimmick. The whole Austin 316 Southern, like Texas rattlesnake idea, like that's a great one. The Rock is a great one.
My favorite gimmick, I think, is Legend Killer Randy Orton.
Yes. Rapping John Cena, that's a great gimmick.
Oh, Thugonomics, Dr. Thugonomics,
yeah.
Josh, your mic's up by your head still, by the way. We can't really hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
All good.
That's a tough one for gimmicks. I like
Hulk Hogan.
Well, yeah, Hulkmania, of course.
Right. So, Macho Man. Oh, like going on like that, just incredible.
I personally like really strange gimmicks, like Gold Dust.
Oh yeah, that's a great gimmick. That's not a lame one. That's a great one.
He's iconic.
But original Gold Dust, like when he was younger and he would come out and it would just be like fucking extravagant. Gangrel is a sick gimmick.
Oh,
the Brood, dude. Yeah, dude.
The whole Brood, yeah.
Other good gimmicks, Godfather, Val Venus, just all that stuff is
good gimmicks.
Godfather.
Oh god.
Val Venus, I gotta disagree with, yeah. But Godfather, like I don't even think that was a gimmick. That's actually him. If you listen to that guy talk, that's him.
Also to finish off great gimmicks, and APA with Farouk and Bradshaw. When you used to have The Office, that was just like the door. You just walk through the door, and I'll never forget when someone walked through the door and they're like, "You didn't knock," and they're just like,
"It's just the door."
They leave again. They knock, and they're like, "Yeah, come in." Just asking for favors. Worst gimmicks. Yes, Val Venus is a horrible gimmick. I'm just kidding, but like the chicken.
I was going to say, you took the words out of my mouth. I was like, well, we could go for the cheap answer and say the chicken.
The gobbledygooker, dude.
The clown back in the day.
Doink the clown.
Yeah, a lot of those early 90s, late 80s, like WCW had some bad gimmicks too.
Who did you say, Josh?
Isaac Yankem.
Oh, that was that was a dentist that Kane played, and that was his first gimmick. I'm pretty sure his name was Isaac Yankem, DDS.
Yeah,
Dust.
Oh, there was RoboCop. Was a
I think Big Boss Man was a bad gimmick too.
Yes, he was.
He was just a cop, like. So a cop can't go wrestle and take off his uniform? Like,
yeah,
that's kind of a cop out because I think any of those job gimmicks are really bad. But
yeah,
was it Puke?
What
did that gimmick ever make it to TV, or was that just?
What'd you say?
Puke.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude. No, that was just on like Beyond the Mat, that old documentary.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, did that ever make it to TV? Because
I don't even know what you're talking about, dude.
Buddy who got paralyzed. He's now paralyzed from wrestling.
Jordan, just later type in on YouTube Beyond the Mat Puke. And it's like it's actually a really good insight on like how brutal Vince can be in another way.
How his mind works.
And how like desperate people are to be in the WWE.
Okay.
I guess best before we end, everyone's favorite match ever, which I've already said mine, so I'll go again. I think The Rock. Oh no, that's unfair. No, yeah. Hulk Hogan and The Rock.
That's your match ever?
Yeah.
Fuck. Josh, do you know yours?
Shawn Michaels and John Cena. I think it was a WrestleMania. It was a pay-per-view either way. I can't remember. I was a kid at the time. But Shawn Michaels had like a full crimson mask. And I remember me and my brother sitting at the foot of the bed watching it, and we were just fuming. Like, we loved John Cena till this point. I was like, how could you do that? It was like right after the first DX reincarnation.
Okay.
So, like, we were pretty young, and wrestling was still real to me then. So it was like, how could you do that to Shawn Michaels? Like, it just hit me the most emotionally. It was the first time I ever felt like It was the only time I ever felt like I would jump over the barricade. Like, if I was there.
Fair enough.
What about yours, Gordon?
I guess mine. CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011. When he won, and when CM Punk won and left with the title, like his contract was expiring, and he actually just he blew Vince a kiss, and he actually left with
the match or the story.
See,
both are relevant. The story is part of the match.
That's true. Yeah, if you can tell the story in the match.
Dude, the fact they're in Chicago and how hot the crowd was, it was unreal. It was so good. Other than that,
I'm very surprised none of us said the RVD and John Cena match.
That's a good one.
I don't know if favorite match ever, but like that's pretty. You talking about the one in the ECW One Night Stand?
ECW One Night Stand.
Dude. There's a lot of good ones, but yeah. All right. Guys, well,
I was gonna say, I think that's everything. Well, besides what we're already off topic of, I have to say.
I think we did all right.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks everyone who listened. We just want to throw in a couple new things. We got some new things happening right now. We just started today. We started a Patreon. There's 3 different tiers in the Patreon. There's a link in our episode descriptions and all that. You can get it there. We're still trying to figure out how to properly what we're going to add to the tiers for bonuses. But for right now, if you just want to be a member and stuff, well, we would really appreciate it. We also signed up for Buy Me a Coffee, which is another app which you can support us from. We're just starting to, we want to be a bit serious about this, and we want to have more than one episode a month or whatever it is. So anything you can donate to the podcast helps. If there's another way you want to donate, just let me and Jordan know, and we'll definitely try to find some way for you to help. I think that's it. Hey, Jordan?
Good luck.